Well, hello and welcome again, everybody, to another edition of Spincast here at Stay Plugged In. Today, joining us from Concordia University out in Nebraska, we've got the head esports coach for Concordia University, Ryan HINDS. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Good
Very
deal.
good.
Good deal. I know we talked a little bit off camera, so I'll kind of just jump right into it. Tell our audience what got you into this space. You know, obviously esports is blooming all over the country, whether it's at the collegiate level, at the high school level. So many folks are jumping in, but it's not easy. And to jump right into the head esports coach moniker is it's a lot of work. So what got you here, and how are things going?
Sorry, you cut out there a little bit.
I was just going to say, what got you to this point, and how
Okay.
are things going for you?
Well, yeah. So I just started out interested in playing video games when I was young. Went to college for engineering because I couldn't do it in video games. But in college, really got into League of Legends and just kind of that was my first introduction to what esports was as a scene. Um, Graduated, and whenever I got married, my wife taught at the school in Elm Creek, and she kind of saw that there was all these students that played video games or had the same interest in video game approached me one day saying, "Hey, you like video games? What do you think about starting just a gaming club, doing something that gets these kids together?" So from that, we reached out to other schools near us because we wanted to do more competitions against other schools, actually form more of the esports scene because that would encourage friendly competition as well as team play, focusing on different important aspects of it like that, and also to help um, give us eligibility requirements. So you had to stay with good grades and everything else for the school, not be in trouble. So that way, those students that we were reaching out to would still have to maintain that. So um, did that for about 3 years, and then kind of decided I seriously wanted to get into the esports scene more. So started looking around for a job and found one here at Concordia University. So that's kind of how I ended up here where I am. And we've got our arena now fully set up, ready to go. Got our machines late because of COVID, but still got them. So they're here, and everything's now finally kind of settling down, and I can focus on trying to recruit, manage the students that I currently have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know you're gearing up for the spring season, as we talked about a little earlier, and some of the titles that you have. Talk to me a little bit about the things that you're responsible for, because I think our audience, one of the things that I run across when I'm talking to a number of collegiate coaches, directors, et cetera, is how much they're actively participating in more than just the coaching side of things. They're doing quite a bit more. So talk a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like.
Right. I mean, from basically everything in the morning, I'm setting up everything from like, oh, here's all the emails I got. Here's all the recruits I'm trying to look at, trying to find more recruits, trying to like basically about 80% of my day is involving recruitment and uh, organizing like, hey, who are we going to scrim next week?
Mm-hmm.
If we were in a season competing this year, it would be, okay, we got a game on Monday. We got a game on Thursday. Let's prep for let's make sure that the team is here, ready to go. And then my afternoons are almost all strictly based, aimed towards like what practice is going to look like that afternoon. Is there a match that afternoon that we have to prep for? Making sure I've got all the information out, making sure the machines are up to date. And so it's more than just being a coach. I don't sit here and I can't even sit here and go, oh yeah, I'm fantastic League of Legends coach. Look at me. I have to know League. I have to know Overwatch. I have to know Rocket League. So I know League the best, but man, you have to kind of focus on like, all right, what do I have to have my Rocket League guys do today? What do I have to have the Overwatch guys do? And so, what are my student leaders in those teams saying? Hey, we need to work on this, or taking their feedback and then processing that into what practice that needs to look like. So yeah, not only are you the head coach for 3 different teams, but you're also the director and the athletic director for esports. So you kind of have to fill almost 4 different positions all at once, and you're like, goodness gracious. And then if you have more games, obviously you're filling more positions than that even.
Right. And I think you're selling yourself just a little short, because if you look at, for example, baseball, right? You talked about it with your prep. Well, in baseball, the head coach doesn't normally prepare the field and get the lines down and everything else. They typically aren't looking at how they're going to schedule their day. They typically have an assistant to do that. They're usually not throwing batting practice or working out with the pitchers and stuff like that. They usually have coaches to handle all of that, have a recruiting coordinator, and on and on and on and on.
Right.
So to your point, you do quite a bit. So kudos to you. Obviously, it takes a passion to want to be in that position and do it successfully for your school
Right.
here at Concordia. So kudos to you to be able to do that. And hopefully, as the space continues to evolve, I think more and more admin groups are understanding the value of having a solid esports program and building culture around that. So hopefully that will continue to show itself throughout the esports space there in college. But how about from a recruiting side? You talked a little bit about that. For our audience, a lot of high school guys and girls and obviously their parents, what do you look for? Everyone looks for talent first and foremost, right? They want good players. They want to compete. They want to win. Why else would we do it? But beyond that, what else? What are some of the metrics that hey, when I'm recruiting someone for our program, I'm looking for these other intangible type things. What are those things?
Yeah, it's a lot of focus on like what do they do with a team. So usually my number one question, even before asking rank, is like, hey, have you played on a team? Like, have you played on a
Mhm.
high school team? Have you played on a semi-professional team? Have you played with just a bunch of your buddies and you have a full squad you've played with every single evening? Because I want to know, like, all right, do you know how to work with other people who are better or worse than you? And then on top of that, what role do you fulfill for that team? Are you more of do you take a forward leadership role? Are you the shot caller? Are you making the plays happen, and telling everyone else what to do? Or are you more the sit back, analyzing it, feeding information to the guy who's the shot caller, then saying, hey, I think we should do this? Or are you more the support type person where you're listening to what the shot caller is saying and then doing it, to the letter and trying to make sure that, all the information is getting fed to them correctly. And that's something I think that's really important, because I would rather have a player who's sitting at gold, but because of their team play, it's gold in solo queue is not equal gold in team play. You can be far better than that. And that just comes out in mechanics most times. Um, but yeah, having a really good player is also one thing. But if they're extremely toxic, not working with the team, trying to just solo push the team, that's going to be extremely inefficient, especially on the collegiate front where you are playing other teams and it's not solo queue. So one of the things I ask for is just how do they play on a team, first and foremost.
Got it. Understood. So some of the things we run across when we deal with a lot of high school esports players is trying to educate them about, hey, you got to be on time. You got to be a good teammate. You've got to show up for the scrims. You can't get frustrated because you lost and then just run off and quit. Talk a little bit about the scheduling portion for the players and what you expect from your existing e-athletes that you have on campus.
Yeah, like you said, being on time is huge. Whenever I was coaching on the high school front, I had to throw in like this 10-minute buffer because I didn't know when students were really showing up. They'd show up, but it was like the other factor to it as well was parents not ever reminding their kid, hey, you got to be at esports practice. So it was not quite as high on the list. But for on the collegiate front, a lot of students are getting scholarships, are getting funded to do this. And so with those students, it's like there's more of a reason like, hey, you got to be here because this is part of why you're at school now. So there's a lot of importance to that. And especially on the scheduling side, when I tell a school, hey, we're going to be ready at 4:00 today, I have a scrim, at 4. And then I expect my students to be here at 3:30, sitting down, warming up, preparing for the scrim. And so just like with anything else, if you're not on time and then you're not putting in the time, then you're not going to improve and you're not going to be bettering your team.
All right. Right. And you said something interesting to me in respect to, for the collegiate esports athlete, they're getting funded and in a lot of programs to be there and to perform and to work. But I look at any traditional sport and at the high school level, or any esport at the high school level, you're not getting funded, but your responsibility is to be a good teammate at the end of the day. And if your teammates are, fully relying on you to, hey, you've got to be here so that you can take ground balls at short, or so that you can go out and catch deep routes, so we can get a good practice in and improve as a group. He's no different in esports. There's literally no difference in esports. Your teammates hopefully hold each other accountable, and hopefully that will start to change those dynamics a little bit, because I think, and we talked a little bit about this off camera, but the more and more coaches like yourself kind of come onto the scene, especially at the high school level, to kind of implement, hey, these are the things that are expected of you. I think the better foundationally the entire space will grow over time as well. So talk about, if you don't mind, your existing program, the titles that you currently utilize, and what you're looking to recruit towards for the upcoming 2021 or 2022 season.
So right now we just offer Overwatch, League of Legends, and Rocket League. Those are the three most popular titles collegiately, but obviously Valorant has kind of popped itself onto the scene all of a sudden, and I've got a lot of interest, so we might be having a feeler team for that next semester, just to see what that kind of looks like. But yeah, right now, we're starting with those, and we're focusing not just on, I guess, the titles themselves, but also trying to get in students who are good at casting, content creating stuff as well, because we really want a lot of buy-in from just our whole campus on like watching esports. And so not only are we, focusing on like, well, here's our titles, but then we got to get people who can help break those down and kind of help talk about them. And so in the future, what that looks like is having students who are here to help do that casting for our games, to have more games, have a bigger, space to be able to kind of schedule out when teams come in for things. But yeah, for right now, we're just kind of starting with the big three, and moving from there.
Got it. And now, I know it's been a short time in general for esports throughout, but have any natural rivalries started to develop against other schools, maybe whether they're really close by or?
As far as things are going right now, no. But I think we've got a couple schools near us that could definitely become our rivals, even within the same athletic conference that we're already in. So I'm kind of really hoping for that. Also, we're a part, since I guess Concordia University is a name that is on to several different states. So there's Concordia, Texas, Concordia, Wisconsin. So we're kind of hoping that here at Nebraska, we'll be able to be a part of that group as well, so we can actually form more of a rivalry amongst those other schools, other Concordias on top of that.
Got it. Completely understood. So if we could flash forward with your vision of where you want to bring your program, if you could look into the crystal ball 3 to 5 years from now, how are things looking?
3 to 5 years from now would be something that I can't even tell you 5 years ago what I would have been doing. But no, for sure, my own little vision would be that we've got a little bit larger facility, because we would have more games. We'd have a lot of students on campus that are here on scholarship for playing. Hopefully we can get some more dedicated coaches for those games, and then I can kind of sit back more into a director position, less of a day-to-day type thing, and more trying to just organize our entire league and everything else. So if not that, then, and still be in charge of maybe a couple of the games I'm most passionate about, especially league. I'd hate to lose that one, but at least have someone who's able to play it far more than I can.
Understood. So you mean you tell me you don't want to do the field prep and the scheduling and all the other stuff that comes? No, just kidding.
Not on top of everything else. No. I enjoy all of it by itself, but gosh, throw it all together.
It's a chore, to say the least. I get it. Last question, and we'll end on this, because I've always think this is so super important. The impact esports has on the student body, the student that's participating, cannot be understated, in my opinion. I know that first, for me, if I've got a freshman walking on campus somewhere, one of my kids, I want them to feel at home right away. First and foremost, I want them to be in a community that they feel like, hey, these boys and girls, they're just like me. That's one. And I want them to follow their passion more than anything else. So tell me, from your perspective, what the ability to provide esports, what does that mean for you personally and for Concordia as a university? And lastly, most importantly, what type of impact that is having on those students that are playing for you?
Yeah, I mean, from the Concordia perspective, I don't have any great stories on that quite, but I know what impact it's had on the high school front, on myself as a person trying to teach others, just in esports. It's been amazing. Like, I've had to change myself in so many different ways because being a coach and being a role model is something you work on
Mhm.
constantly trying to improve, because you can see your own inadequacies, and then whenever you see a student come along that struggling with something and you realize, oh wait, I can't really teach them anything because I struggle with that too. But you see it from a different angle, you see it from someone else and not just yourself. um, but I know that it has a huge impact on the high school front. I had a student that he couldn't do any other sports, he was unable to, um, because of physical things, and he was able to do esports. He finally felt like he was a part of something, and he was the most passionate student I had on that entire team because that was his thing. It just
Yeah.
was his thing entirely. And to steal a story from one of the other high school coaches that I know, they had a pep rally for their high school for all the sports, and they included esports in it because they had a bunch of esports students go to state, from that previous year. And when they had all the students say a couple words, and one of the students said that, this was the first time he had ever felt like he was a part of the school,
Wow.
was because they included them in the pep rally. So I'm stealing that. I know I am, but that's just one of the many things I've heard.
That's all it takes. You impact one life, it makes a huge, huge difference. So kudos again to you. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. Again, we wish you the very
Yes,
best of luck and success as we get into the 21 spring season for you guys. We hope that you stay safe. We hope that you're successful, and we
yeah,
definitely want to reconnect and see how things are going down the road. So we appreciate you being on.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
For everyone listening, thank you again so much for joining us for another edition of Spincast here on Stay Plugged In. Stay tuned for many more episodes with interesting stories and communications similar to what we heard here for Concordia University out of Nebraska. So thanks again to all. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Thank you.